Interesting report as we get a day closer to the NFL trade deadline, which, as we all know, is on November 5th. Joey, isn't there something else of importance going on November 5th? I don't know. Not that important, clearly, because the NFL trade deadline is the big day, obviously. But interesting report. A handful of teams have actually checked in and seen if the Saints would be interested in trading away Chase Young, the edge rusher that the New Orleans Saints brought in free agency. He's on a one-year deal. So, if the Saints were to move on from him, it's an interesting move to discuss. And we're going to break it all down, and then we're going to talk about some other trade candidates. But I want to ask you this question to get things started. What would you do if you were the GM? Would you trade Chase Young? Would you keep him? We're going to go through the production. We're going to go through all of the stats, all of the information, and everything. And, of course, we're also going to see what the trade rumors are saying. What are the NFL media people talking about when it comes to Chase Young? So let me know in the comment section, what would you do? Keep him or trade him? So in case you didn't know, this is actually kind of a cool stat, and I think it's pretty good when it comes to, the grand scheme of across the entire league. Chase Young is tied for 14th in total pressures with 30 on the year, and I actually think that that's pretty good. But then you look at the sack numbers, and you think, well, 30 pressures, that's a lot. It's tied for 14th in the league. It's pretty damn good. But then you're only getting to the quarterback twice. There's something weird about that. 12 quarterback hits, but only 2 sacks. 30 pressures, 12 hits, 2 sacks. Something here is not adding up. But when it does come to the New Orleans Saints specifically, Chase Young is one of the best, actually tied for the best, on the roster when it comes to creating pressures on the quarterback. So Chase Young and Carl Granderson are tied at 30 total pressures, which is awesome. But again, getting a lot of pressures, but not a lot of sacks. And, this is a pretty big drop-off here from 30 down to the next best, which is Brian Brzee at 14. And, when a cornerback is top 5 in pressures for you, just going to say it, I don't think that that's all that great. Shout out to Alante Taylor, but I think that that's very telling with the Saints defensive line and with the pass rush. It's just not good. Now, Bleacher Report was the publication that I saw this trade rumor on, and they actually discussed trading Chase Young. And what would it mean for the New Orleans Saints? Well, trading pass rusher Chase Young, who's on a one-year $13 million deal, would provide no 2025 cap relief. Again, he's on a one-year contract, so next year they're not paying him anything. Now, however, it would net the Saints some valuable draft capital. So for me specifically, I'm going to go back to a trade that just happened. And, let's talk about Josh Uche. The Patriots just traded Josh Uche away to the Chiefs, which, really quick, for the record, the NFL has to stop helping the Chiefs. Stop it. All 31 teams need to band together to stop making this team a better roster. It's just pissing me off. Anyway, back onto the topic here. This is what you got in this trade. And I don't think you're getting much better. I think at the absolute best, you would get a 5th-round pick. And that's, being very, very generous. Maybe you have to give up a 7th right now. But when you look at the Josh Uche trade, you got a 6th-round pick. The Saints don't have a 6th-round pick right now, so that would be something you get back. I just, a 6th-round pick really isn't all that valuable, in my opinion. I mean, how many players on the roster right now do we have that are 6th-round picks? We have a handful of UDFAs. How many players right now are 6th-round picks that are making a regular impact? Not that many. Now, teams that could trade for Chase Young, The Eagles are a team that definitely need a better pass rush. The Packers are another team that could be interested in Chase Young. I actually think the Ravens might be one of the better options. Same with the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. I think these 3 right here are definitely teams you should keep an eye on because they're either dealing with injuries, they're, really pushing for a Super Bowl, they've got to work around some bad production on the roster. The Eagles, I'm just going to say this. I physically cannot stomach. I cannot handle another fleece job from Howie Roseman. So just if they call, don't answer. Mickey Loomis, do not answer if the Philadelphia Eagles are calling you. But these are the 5 teams I think could be interested in a Chase Young trade. And I'll tell you what, if a trade does go down, we're going to break it down for you. We'll cover it. We'll tell you everything you need to know. What do the Saints get in return? What are we going to be what does this mean for the team? Who should step up? What are the replacements? We're going to break everything down that you need to know as a Saints fan. So be sure to subscribe, lock us in for free daily videos around your New Orleans Saints. Doesn't matter how bad the team is. We're still going to be here every day giving you coverage. Now, coming up next, I got a handful of players that the Saints could actually look to trade away. Again, the NFL trade deadline is on November 5th. So we're going to talk about 3 more players that the Saints could possibly offload to maybe get some money cleared off the books in the future. Also get some draft capital. This is a very important offseason, and I think I might have a couple keys to success to really flip things back around and, hopefully not have to rebuild for the next 5 years, it feels like. But I got to say, shout out to Game Time for sponsoring today's video. One of my favorite apps that I have on my phone because I'm a guy who loves to save money. And I'm also a guy who loves to go to live events. And fun fact, my girlfriend Maddie and we're actually headed to a concert this weekend, and we got tickets on the Game Time app. We're going to go see Whiskey Myers here in Dallas, a really good country band if you haven't checked them out. And we were able to save $20 because it was Maddie's first purchase. She used code CHATSPORTS. Now, Game Time does have a new feature called Game Time Picks, and you don't have to just go to concerts. You can also go to comedy shows, you can go to theater, you go to sporting events, whether it's professional, college, anything in between. In Game Time Picks makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. They filter out all the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through tickets that you're not going to buy anyway. And obviously the New Orleans Saints season has been bad, but you can go pretty cheap to go to a Saints game. Less than $50. I'm sorry to say it, but man, I will gladly take ticket prices that are that low. And if you want to save $20 on your first purchase, look at that. You can also go see LSU here in a few weeks. LSU Bama coming up. It's going to be a very big game. Tickets are a little expensive, but you can also save money if you use our code CHATSPORTS. That's code CHATSPORTS. It's in the comments and in the description, and the link is available for you if you want to get started. Terms do apply, but once again, create an account and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. So we talked about Chase Young. Now let's talk about another one that's going to make some people mad. Ruffle some feathers, if you will. What about trading Marshon Lattimore? And this has nothing to do with how he's been playing. I actually think he's been playing some of the best football up to this point in his career. But the financials are a big, big factor for me. This year, he has $1.2 million if you were to trade him in cap savings. But what about next year? And then in 2026? $36 million in total savings right here if you trade him away. I'm just saying, right now, you trade away Marshon Lattimore, and you were, 65-ish over the cap after the Alvin Kamara extension. So let's do some quick math here on my calculator. 65 minus 18, $47 million. You are only $47 million over the cap if you trade away Marshon Lattimore. Again, I'm not saying that you should get rid of him because he's not a good player. I think he's a phenomenal player. I really, really like Marshon Lattimore. Dare I say, the best cornerback in all of Saints history. But this is also a business. This is also a thing where if things aren't going to get better, you got to nip this in the ass and you got to fix this quickly. Otherwise, we're going to be still rebuilding when we get to 2027 and when we get to 2028 and 2029 and 2030. That's not what we want to see. We want to fix these problems as soon as possible, and that means some tough conversations and some tough decisions and saying some goodbye to some really good players. But if you do move on, you still have really good talent, guys. I know Rico Payton is an undrafted free agent, but every single time that his number has been called, he makes it happen. He answers the call, he plays really well, and he has turned into a very nice piece on the Saints. Not just special teams, but defense when he's had to fill in as well. Alontae Taylor, man, I've talked about him so much on this channel. I am a diehard Alontae Taylor fan. I got Joey Peterson, a Tennessee proud volunteer alum. He's a big Alante Taylor fan. Good. Gotta love that guy. He's so good. And I truly do believe he's one of the great young players that this team has on the roster. Dennis Allen, for the record, yesterday saying they have good young players, not great young players. That's a load of bullshit. Alante Taylor is a great player. And I also think that Kool-Aid McKinstry can become a great player. He's a rookie. There's clearly things that we need to iron out, but I think that he has the things in between the ears. I think he has the skill set. I think he has the physical traits to be a really good cornerback for the New Orleans Saints. Now, what would I want if I had to trade away Marshon Lattimore? I'm going to be greedy. He's a good player. I'm going to ask for a third-round pick and a little bit extra. Maybe it's a third-round pick and like a sixth. Maybe it's a fourth and a fifth. Maybe it's a third and a seventh. Third and a backup. I don't know. I don't know. But this is what my asking price would be. And at the end of the day, it's just, it'd be like that. And I know that that's a hard asking price to meet, but I also will say it's one of those things where we have the player. If you want him that bad, you better pay up. So do I want to trade him? Absolutely not. Marshon Lattimore is one of my favorite players on the New Orleans Saints roster. But I also understand this is a business, and there are things that we have to fix. And I could see the Lions and Dan Campbell, biting on Marshon Lattimore. Anyway, Cam Jordan. I don't like talking about this one. I'm going to be honest. It really hurts to discuss this. I will say for Cam, he is a player who is a legend. And I will also say that when the Saints signed him to that contract last offseason back in August, it made him a Saints player for life. Never played for another roster, never played for another team. And if you were to trade him, guess what? You would actually save $12.5 million in 2025. Again, I don't want to. I don't want to get rid of Cam. But when the production and the impact has decreased and you have $12.5 million, it makes it kind of interesting. And we can look at the numbers for Cam Jordan, but in 2024, this season, it's not been good. 0 sacks, 1 hit, 11 pressures, 0 tackles for loss, and only 9 total tackles. Something has to give. Something has to improve. And at the end of the day, the New Orleans Saints need to be better when it comes to rushing the passer and stopping the run. And look, Cam Jordan, he is one of my favorite players ever, not just a Saints player, a NFL player as a whole. I think all of the things, not just as a football player, but as a man, he is a role model, and he is exactly what you want on the New Orleans Saints. I had the absolute pleasure of getting to meet him at the NFL Combine this past year. One of my favorite players ever, so it pains me to talk about this. I don't think the Saints would trade Cam away. I think that they want to keep him around as a Saint for life, let him retire, let him do his thing. Excuse me. And to be honest, I don't think Cam wants to go anywhere. And here's the thing with Cameron Jordan. Saints fans will value Cam Jordan way more than the rest of the league. So if you're sitting here saying, yeah, I'll trade away Cam, but I want a third or a fourth round pick, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. You might get a 6th round pick at best. You're not going to get much. It's going to hurt. It's going to suck to say goodbye, which is why I don't want to say goodbye. But if you do, I can understand why you'd want to trade him away. You're just not going to get a large return. So let me know. Would you trade Cam Jordan? Type yes or no for me down in the comment section. And I got one last trade idea that I think you guys are going to get absolutely fired up. It's Chris Olave, the wide receiver, the young player. And hear me out. This is not a trade that I am in support of. For the record, I want to make this as blatantly obvious and blatantly clear as possible. I would not trade Chris Olave. However, this offense fails to give him opportunities. It fails to give him the ball. It fails to give him the chance to make plays. And when he doesn't get opportunities to make plays, if you're not going to use them, you might as well try and get something in return. Rather than letting him play out his rookie contract, you don't bring him back, he goes and plays somewhere else and balls out, you might as well trade him and get something in return. Again, this is not a trade I would do, but if you are dead set on blowing it up and resetting and getting good again, it's going to take moves like this. I do think that Chris Olave does have the highest trade value on the roster. He's young. He's talented. There have been some injuries and stuff, but I will say this. He is one of the best young wide receivers we've seen in the last handful of years, in the Garrett Wilson draft class and the Drake London draft class. Like, he is still putting up some of the best numbers. Again, the opportunities haven't been there. Only 43 targets. He's brought the ball in 31 times. He averages over 12 yards a catch, and he's only found the end zone once, which is frustrating for me. And the other thing is, I don't think you can afford to trade Olave because not just him, but Bub Means got hurt last week. Cedric Wilson missed last week due to injury. So if you trade away Chris Olave, your wide receiver group, excuse my French, it is absolute dog shit. No harm, no foul, no ill will towards Mason Tipton, Bub Means, Jermaine Jack, any of those guys. But that is not a good wide receiver group. So if you were to trade Chris Olave, maybe you can go get one of these guys on your screen. I really, really like Teteroa McMillan. Luther Burden, he's a really good player, but with McMillan, he's a do-it-all guy, 6'5", 212 pounds, over 17 yards per catch. Luther Burden out of Mizzou is a dynamic slot wide receiver who is really, really good after the catch. He breaks tackles like, I was breaking hearts back in college. Anyways, Isaiah Bond, he's an Alabama transfer, went to Texas. He's an absolute speedster. People are saying he actually might be faster than Xavier Worthy. And then Emeka Egbuka, he has a similar profile as like Jackson Smith and Jigba or Amon-Ra St. Brown, a really, really good route runner, primarily used in slot. And Xavier Restrepo, he is Cam Ward's go-to guy down there at the U. He attacks the football in the air. He's really good with short area quickness, and I think that can translate to the next level at the slot position. And my favorite thing about him is he's tough. He's tough as nails and a willing blocker despite his size. Now, I want to ask this question. Name a player that you would trade away. Who's a guy that you would move off of in order to try and move and build for the future? Let me know in the comment section. I understand we might have to lose some good players that we really, really like, but at the end of the day, this is a business, and this is a football team, and you have to make improvements, no matter how badly it hurts your heart right now. So get down in the comment section. Y'all stay golden. We'll see you next time.